So if you continue on and say, what's the next step in the branding process, it's really not brand image, it's brand identity. And again, the notion is really simple, is how do I want my customers and prospects to perceive my brand, which is consistent with my strategic position. And Cisco does a great job of this. When they look to recruit people, what do? And they're hiring, 1,000 people a quarter. They find out where their most recent hirees, where they connected with Cisco for the first time, and where they hang out, who they associate with, where they spend their free time, what books do they read. So where does Cisco conduct its job recruiting search efforts? On the Dilbert website. They do it at wine and art festivals. Why? That's where programmers, technicians hang out. So when you talk about demographics and find out who's my prospect and who's my customer, and let me get a precise demographic profile, I'd argue focus more on psychographics. Where do people connect with companies? Where do they hang out? They also advertise in movie theaters because programmers, network engineers spend a lot of time at movies too. So the example there is something that you should ask yourself and your team when building a brand or resuscitate or turning around a company is find out where your community, where your prospects, where they hang out, what they do, why they buy, how they feel. How do they feel about you and your company? That's critical, not just who they are. Often people just fall down but worrying about, I'm going after the early adopter. Well, what do you know about them? Who are they? How, attach a personality, describe them to me, use a magazine name, use a person. Who are these people? How do they feel? What are their aspirations, their desires? What are their frustrations? Those are conversations we have every day in our company that's contributed to our success. And then when you look at the word consistency, what happens when you have a new marketing director or have a new advertising or marcom person come into your company? What's the first thing they do? They fire the ad agency, they change the campaign, they make their stamp, they have their own ideas about what the company, corporate brand, or the sub-brands may be. But branding is about consistency. I've had more people tell me those yellow covers are ugly. Okay, I'm from the Bronx, born, raised, and educated. Tom Carvel did a commercial. Who knows Tom Carvel? Right? What's about Tom Carvel you remember? Feisty. What about that voice, right? Right? Very much that gravelly, Tom Carvel. So there's distinctive images you have, memorability. The first Dots for Dummies cover was white with a cartoon on it. I wanted to convey a fun, easy experience versus a formulaic experience. And so I saw an article in Forbes magazine, and it said, how does Detroit, the car companies, identify why a car is red or yellow or fuchsia or purple? Well, there's actually a study, and there's color specialists, and in that story they showed all the colors and what the psychographical inducements are when you connect with a color. So my Macintosh line was all brown. Well, brown conveys rejection. So I was like, whoa, scrap that. Yellow is the most attention-getting color in the spectrum. The lettering is chalk-like. So if you look at any of our books, and you take a look at one of our recent books, here's Art for Dummies. Here's a great topic, right? Thomas Hoving, ex-director of the Met, just published 2 days ago. And what great topic. We'd all love to appreciate art, but we kind of feel, I don't know exactly what is Cubism versus Fauvism and Post-Impressionism. Where do I start? Where's my trusted friend? So we've got the chalk-like lettering, the blackboard, we're going to learn, and we've got the celebrity, so there's a co-branding element, but the notion is we wanted to create a striking package, and when you look at all the, when you do what's called a brand audit, and you look at your space advertising, your business card, your stationery, all the tchotchkes, how do you use consistently any visual cues or any icons or mnemonics or typography? And I was seeing things like green and blue in our look and feel. And people said, well, let's go away from the yellow and black and let's introduce white and let's throw some green and fuchsia because we want some differentiation. And clearly, those are easy urges to submit into, right? But you've got to withhold and stand back and say, brands take a minimum of 10 years to build. We're 9 years into our life cycle of building this brand. 60 million in print, 31 languages. We've got a whole new Dummies.com campaign that's going to bring 24/7 learning services to the net to complement our strength in the physical world. So there's so much to do yet that we haven't even tapped into, and yet the natural urge is to change. So conduct a brand audit in your firms and just take a look at it. If you've got a specific typography or a look and feel or a color scheme, and find out if you're consistently applying it. If you're not, you're losing the impressions and the way to build a sustainable place in your prospect's mind that's going to be instantly recognizable. So consistency in all your efforts is very, very important. Consistency is everything in branding, and I can't stress that enough. avoid the natural urge to change, and make sure that you have the brand commitment to communicate that same message over and over and over again, particularly when you start to feel it's time for a change, okay? Lastly, and this is the simplest summary of what I can share about the branding process, is that there's a 4-step process. Now, you can read David Acker, who runs the kind of the Bibles of branding out of UC Berkeley, and I've kind of just boiled it down. Most people start backwards. They start with their brand image, and they go out and conduct focus groups, and they say, what do you think about my internet site? Do you like it or not? What do you think about the book, the read? What do you think about our service? Wrong. The worst place to start. You've got to start up front. If you've defined the market to your advantage, okay, and you've got a real strong execution plan on how to make sure you're penetrating that message, so you start there, and then your brand identity evolves because you want your customers to know that Dummies is the fun and easy way to learn, the first choice to learn. It's completely different, contrarian, and unconventional from the rest of the pack. And then your customer should identify with that message. The consistency of the execution will reinforce that, and then when you do a brand audit, then you can have the brand image, and people will say, I love the Dummies book. They speak right to me. Yeah, I do feel dumb. These are verbatim quotes from research we've done last year, okay, 7 years after we've launched this brand in the UK, Canada, and the United States. We launched this brand around an intuitive sense of the market, backed by no empirical data. Now we're marrying the empirical research process with the intuitive feel for what customers want. But I resist the urge to start and say, let's do an audit and let's do some research and find out what our customers tell us. That's helpful, but in the branding process, that's the last place to start. You start with how you and your team define the market to your advantage, how you're going to convey that message consistently over time, and that's the process by which you're going to get long-term sustainable success. So some simple examples of how we've created this Dummies brand and why it's been so incredibly sustainable. It's part of the Americana icon, one of the fastest growing publishing companies in the 90s. We define brand as product, also as an icon. If you look at the Disney ears, if you look at the Nike swoosh sign, there are ways to create mnemonics. If you look at the internet space, if you look at Ask.com, Ask Jeeves, the notion of Jeeves as a butler and service, and I'm at your service. But there's a graphical feel. That's really important if you can connect the Pillsbury Doughboy. Connect a rich graphical icon or mnemonic with no words assigned to it. You see Nike now, you'll see the swoosh, you won't see Nike. They've built that rich icon so it's instantly recognizable. And then I'm going to talk just briefly about some other media, the magazine media, and how brand is an organization. If people think that you cannot create a corporate brand, you're sorely mistaken, because people will want to identify with the company. What's your culture? What's your service orientation? How responsive are you? That's the company culture as a corporate brand. So the Dummies brand as product, we did research and we found out that over a quarter of the people have read a Dummies book, have bought 5 or more books. Repeat purchasing, recurring demand, that blew us away. They bought Internet for Dummies, Windows for Dummies, Personal Finance for Dummies, Weddings for Dummies, Gardening for Dummies. So we've extended the brand out across many, many categories, and the thing that I hear most often is, I didn't know you have a book on aromatherapy, yoga, massage, herbal remedies. I didn't know you have a book on investing or online genealogy. I didn't know you had a book on gardening, Italian cooking, gourmet cooking. We have over 400 titles in this brand. So the great news for us is we have yet to even capitalize on the recognition or the selection and the brand extensions we've created. So not only have we done books as our point product, our platform, we've now also done multimedia music. We've done Beethoven for Dummies, Bach for Dummies. Think about opera and classical music. Wouldn't you love to have a better appreciation, a little sense of history about each composer? So we've done multimedia, we've done CDs, we've done spoken word audio, we've done board games. Trivia Pursuit came from Canada, so we work with Pressman Toys to do trivia for Dummies. You know, I'm a pretty interested guy in trivia. I feel a little intimidated, so Trivia for Dummies has a 1, 2, and 3-point scoring system so you don't feel left out. So if you have a brand, don't think of it as a product with certain attributes. Think of it as a brand platform that's the launching pad to capitalize, monetize the customer emotional connection with you, your company, or that particular brand. And also, if you talk to Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs, or we run the Internet Summit, we run Agenda, these high-tech conferences, they talk more and more now about pre-IPO companies that when they evaluate their characteristics for success, who are their partnerships? Who are they leveraging? Who are their top corporate customers? How are they partnering? Ask Jeeves now is partnering with Dell and Microsoft and Compaq and Martha Stewart. And it's interesting how these become more levers for success, at least defined by the capital markets, but I believe also defined by the customer. How does this brand, why do you see ingredient branding, Intel Inside? Why do you see more and more companies partnering together in the packaged goods space to get that point of sale impulse purchase there? So we work with AOL now. We're a global knowledge partner. We just launched yesterday a relationship with Ask Jeeves to bring an online Dummies experience, which is very synonymous with the print experience. So that was yesterday. And we're also, this is our Dummies help desk. And we also are partnering with the NHL. The NHL want to bring more spectators into their rinks, and they want more parents and women and children and coaches to understand hockey. So we've all had this simple philosophy. The Dummies brand, if we can increase literacy, increase knowledge, increase information and awareness, it should increase consumption. So we have the wine industry looking to support us with wine for dummies and red wine for dummies and champagne for dummies. We have the NHL giving us their logo to co-brand and say, we endorse this book, we believe it's got great merit, and that's a very important step in the co-branding process. And then also just kind of the proof is in the pudding. A lot of people don't understand the notion that mind share precedes market share. Okay? We were a 1.5 million startup company, private company. It's a large magazine company, but had no book experience at all, no packaged good, no consumer experience. We were able to go to the media. We've been on Jay Leno, we've been on Oprah, we've been on David Letterman, we've been in Deanie Petty in Canada, we've been in People magazine, USA Today. We're regularly quoted. They want to talk to us about different events that happen, why people feel dumb filing their taxes. We proactively plant publicity. I believe that there's two great R's in business. And this was told by me, Dr. Bob Metcalf, who's a friend and started 3Com, invented Ethernet. Two great R's in business: HR, human resources, your culture, and PR. And I think it's often neglected. And I'm really going to be curious to see how the .com companies bring publicity and mass media attention to an internet company. We've been able to do it because we can touch the lives of so many people, and we are kind of looking at the circle of life. We can invade a person's home, their kitchen, their office, their dorm room, and get this kind of parody and this kind of attention. You're seeing more and more magazines talking about the Dummies brand. We have Dr. Ruth, Sex for Dummies. It's the #1 book internationally for us. And in France, it's our #1 market. Sex pour les nuls. They package a condom with the book. It's France, right? And they have a condom, an arrow this way up.